District is still investigating the death of a Southwest High football player who collapsed at practice. So far, medical examiners have not determined how 15-year-old Joshua Ivory died.
The school district placed head coach Joe Dupree and the team's offensive coordinator on paid leave, then reinstated Coach Dupree about a week later. Ashlyn Webb has been reporting on the heat conditions during practice and whether the school followed Georgia High School Association guidelines that day. In tonight's 13 Investigates, Ashlyn explains what she's found.
We've been telling you about the Georgia High School Association's heat guidelines. Coaches from all over the state must record conditions at every practice and stop practice if the numbers climb too high. The key number is the wet bulb globe temperature, or WBGT. That uses heat, humidity, sunlight, and other factors to measure the effect heat stress has on the body.
Because the WBGT tells you about how able your body is to cool off. If you've got wind, the wind helps to blow some of the heat away from you. So that tends to cool you off a little bit more. If the humidity is high, when you sweat, you can't evaporate very efficiently.
So we filed an open records request with Bibb County Schools for the readings recorded the day Ivory collapsed and died. The first practice of the season for Southwest High started on Monday, July 26th, a hot summer day in central Georgia. That was also the first day that 15-year-old Joshua Ivory and many other players hit the fields again, getting ready for the season. According to records we obtained from the school district, practice began at 4:30 p.m. At 3 p.m., 90 minutes before practice, head coach Joe Dupree noted the temperature as 95 degrees. Dupree also recorded the WBGT at 77. GHSA rules say coaches must use caution when that measurement rises over 82.
But once the WBGT gets above 82, that's when we start to implement certain safeguards.
That's UGA kinesiology professor Bud Cooper. He advised GHSA on their heat policies, and under those policies, a measurement of 77 would be well in the safe range. At 4:30 p.m., when practice started, Dupree recorded the WBGT at 79.5, and at 6 p.m., 75.1. Again, those numbers say the practice should have been safe. But we showed temperature, humidity, and other readings from that afternoon to analysts at the National Weather Service in Atlanta and the University of Georgia. Their estimates are higher than the WBGT recorded by Southwest, and they're at the level that would have raised red flags for coaches. The Weather Service estimates a WBGT range between 84 and 90, depending on whether players practice in the shade or direct sun. Pam Knox, director of the UGA Weather Network, also crunched numbers.
My calculations turned out to have wet bulb globe temperatures for those 3 time periods in the mid to upper 80s, depending on which time you're looking at. So those are definitely higher than the values that were listed on that sheet.
So what explains the difference? Knox says there are several possibilities.
I don't know if he used a table, if he had calculation. I don't know if it was measured on the playing field or if it was measured somewhere else where it might have been shadier or windier or something like that. So all of those are, I think, are questions that you'd have to determine.
But if those calculations from Knox and the National Weather Service are correct, Southwest should have taken precautions. According to GHSA rules, if the WBGT is between 82 and 87, coaches must increase the number of rest breaks. If that reading goes past 87, there are more breaks and practice is limited to 2 hours. And at 92, practice must stop. In our records request, we asked Bibb County School District if they follow GHSA heat guidelines at practice. Their lawyers responded by email, sending us a link to those guidelines we just explained. Reporting in Macon, Ashlyn Webb, 13 WMAZ News.
Now, we asked Bibb County Schools how Southwest measured the WBGT at that practice. They said they would not release those records, saying it's still under investigation. Bibb County Schools would not release any more documents relating to the case, citing the federal law protecting student privacy and attorney-client privilege.
Now, to reiterate, investigators have not determined yet how Joshua Ivory died and whether or not it was heat-related. They also have not accused Coach Dupree or anybody connected to the Southwest team of any wrongdoing.